Good morning. Good morning from Lanarkloch on this Sunday morning, the 6th of April. And I'm going to show you if I can turn this camera around. Look at that. Isn't that absolutely stunning? There's my wee dog, little Ralph. Quite happy, just sniffing around, peeing on the daffodils. So here we are in Lanarkloch this morning, and I'm doing some vlogs because I was a challenge from a colleague of mine. My colleague and I have been doing some Zoom chats with regards to work, and we started talking when we were doing the Zoom chats about things that we fear, and although I do quite a bit of public speaking, not massive amount, I do some. I don't like it, and another thing I'm really bad at is putting myself out there. So good morning everybody, and we've been doing the morning ones about fear of change, and I started to go on about the book of Genesis yesterday morning, and I had a few private messages about what did you mean by that and could you explain that a little bit better. So I am going to explain that a little bit better, and how it's my belief that guilt, shame and pride is what's holding us back from having the life that we want. Oh, hi, good morning Stephen, so nice to know you're watching. Oh, and give me a wee comment. I'm so blessed to have been on this journey with you, Mr. Stetton. I often wonder, after I've been speaking to you, Stephen, I wonder what mischief we would have got up to if we had connected in our previous worlds, had collided. I have little fantasies about that, and it gives me a chuckle from time to time. Anyway, back to the task at hand, okay? So I spoke about the book of Genesis yesterday, and I don't want to lose people when I speak about the Bible, and I really don't. I attempt to not come at it from a religious perspective. I was brought up in an indoctrined religious environment in schooling, and I rejected it for a lot of years, right? And then I found my way back into church after an accident about 7 years ago, and I really like the Bible, and I would promote the Bible as the original personal development book. Anything that you're hearing now, you've got, and I'm going to be really flippant, you've got Joe Dispenza, you've got Deepak Chopra, you've got all these minds, it's all in the Bible, but they never had any scientific apparatus to back it up. So to me, I think that's awesome. And people said to me, "Oh Ross, what's the book of Genesis got to do with it?" And they started asking me questions about it. So this is my perspective on it, okay? The book of Genesis is supposed to be the first book in the Bible. I don't know any different. Maybe it's not, but the way that the book's been collated for us, it is. So rather than having an argument about that, in the book of Genesis, man and woman shared this beautiful kingdom, a place of freedom, a place of love, a place of being okay with vulnerability and being okay with who they were. And because of that, there was absolutely no fear. And because there was no fear, they lived in abundance. There was no block between them and their external world. The way that I think about it, I imagine that the animals and the birds would all live in harmony with Adam and with Eve, okay? And then the serpent tricked them and offered them to eat the fruit from the forbidden tree, because that was the only thing they weren't allowed to do. Okay? And they did. And the passage says, do you want to eat some of this? The serpent says. And Eve says, no, I'm not eating it. And he says, why not? He says, because God's told us we will die. And the serpent laughed and said, you will not die. You will be like God, and you will know the difference between good and evil, and your eyes shall be opened. Okay? But the very first thing that they felt when they ate the fruit was they experienced vulnerability that they didn't like. They felt shamed. They saw their nakedness. They felt guilty and shameful. Now, it's then taught to us in the Bible that we're all born sinners, because we all have that systemic, intergenerational, that's been passed down from this creation story of guilt and shame. Now, if I were to go and ask a fish what water was like, it wouldn't know. Someone who was born with no legs doesn't know what it's like to have legs. Someone who's had legs and lost them experiences a different kind of feeling than someone that's born with it. Now, what I'm encouraging you to do, and I encourage in all my work with all my clients, to start to get in touch with that, to start to get in touch with what that would be like. If we were born with guilt, we actually don't have a construct for what it would be like to live a guilt-free life. Okay? We don't have any idea about that. Now, pride, guilt and shame, scientific fact, work on exactly the same parts of the brain as illegal substances, as drugs, as cocaine, as heroin, right? Now, although if you were to check these emotions out, pride would be the strongest, okay? So that lights up the brain the most. That's like a Christmas tree. If you're looking at the brain through an fMRI and you're exposing it to and getting it to conjure up feelings of pride, of guilt and of shame, pride lights it up the most. But from an addictive perspective, the one that targets the nucleus accumbens in the brain, which is where you get feelings, pleasure and things like that, that cocaine and heroin just straight to it. Okay, that's guilt and shame. So how I perceive it and see it, and I'm willing to be challenged, I'm willing to be wrong, is that because our brains are pattern recognition devices, which is also true, we're actually not hardwired for happiness. We have no construct for happiness because we are programmed for survival, okay? So if we're programmed for survival, and most of us are all surviving and not striving, that's for sure, it's not helpful in the evolutionary terms to be happy, right? Because we need to be constantly on guard. What's going to get us? Who's going to steal our food? Where are we going to go? Right? We're programmed for that. We're not hardwired for happiness. Okay, so we have to learn that. We have to hardwire and set up a program in our brain for that construct. Okay, so we've went guilt, shame, pride. We've went addiction, and we're addicted to these chemicals. The brain's a pattern recognition device. We've been talking about that each morning in the Fear of Change. But what we begin to do is we begin to set up a pattern called repetition compulsion disorder, okay? And it's where we start doing the same, setting up the same, people that are in abusive relationships start to find themselves being in abusive relationships. And what we start to do is we start to unconsciously create and project into our environment situations of which are similar to that of the past in order for us to get a feeling of guilt. Now, what we start to do, and this is my belief, and I'm going way out on a wire here, nobody else is talking about this, I've got no evidence of it, it's nowhere that I can go, this is the conclusions that I have drawn in the years of working with reoffending behaviour, and certainly the majority of the work that I've done has been around alcohol and drugs, okay? So I'm going to give you an example. Guy's been sober for 15, 20 years, right? And it's his daughter's 21st birthday, let's say, 18th birthday. And he has to go down into the town, or he has to go further afield to pick up stuff for a surprise birthday party. And he meets a guy that he hasn't seen for ages, and he's like, "Alright, David, how you doing, Davey? I haven't seen you for 15, 20 years. Aye, I moved away. I'm not in the town any longer. What you been up to? Come on, we'll need to go and have a drink to celebrate." He's like, "Nah, I don't drink any longer. I don't do that." He says, "Well, come on, we'll need to get a blether. We'll go and get a wee blether, right? And come on into the bookies with me now just to put a line on." So, Davey thinks that's okay. Goes into the bookies. But without him actually knowing it, his brain's getting lit up like a Christmas tree with all the external stimuli that's going on, okay? So he's weakened. He's somewhat weakened. He's not been vigilant enough in his programme. He goes back outside with Davey, and he's like, "Right, come on, we'll go to Wetherspoons and we'll get a drink." And it's like, "You want a coffee?" "Coffee for Davey, I'll have a coffee as well." "Tell you what, I'll have a brandy and all. Put a brandy in the coffee for me." So he brings it along and he's like, "Davey, come on, you sure you can't get a drink? It's your weight's 18. Come on, let's celebrate." So, Davey has a drink. Davey ends up getting wrecked, ends up not getting the stuff for his kid's birthday party, ends up missing his birthday party, ends up staying at his pal's house. What's the very first thing he feels when he wakes up? He feels guilty. What's the very first thing he does? He reaches for a drink. Because in the insanity of the repetition compulsion disorder that our brains have, we believe that the situation that got us trapped will actually release us. Now, it doesn't. But what it does do is it does release us for a split second and then embeds the trauma even further into the brain. Right? So, if you are following this and you're looking to make changes in your business, in your personal life, in your relationships, then what we start to have to do is we start to have to hardwire different emotions. Now, bad example, but I'm going to use an example of alcohol. But I'm not talking about, this isn't necessarily about addiction per se. So if you've got a bar with lots of glasses on it with lots of different alcohols, for an example now, red wine used to make me feel different than white wine. Whiskey used to make me feel different than vodka. Bacardi used to make me feel different than whiskey. So each of these different drinks make you feel a different way. You know, gin, it's been known throughout time to be a depressant, etc. So I'm giving you that example because the majority of people that's watching this, I am sure, have experienced different types of alcohol in their life, so they can relate to that. Right, so let's just say I gave you half a dozen different examples of different types of alcohol there, right? So inside our brain, we have many different emotions, and each emotion makes us feel a different way. So guilt makes us feel a certain way, love makes us feel a certain way. You look at the picture of a puppy, it makes you feel something, unless you're terrified of dogs. If you look at a picture of a small cat, a baby cat, it makes you feel a certain way. If you look at the picture of a crocodile or an alligator with a child's torso hanging out its mouth, it makes you feel a certain way. So as we're on this journey of personal development, and why I brought in pride, shame and guilt to the mix is because they are probably one of the most addictive chemicals that we have, and I believe that it is the guilt and the shame that is holding us back from unity and oneness and connection. The Garden of Eden, metaphorically of course, those feelings of connection, of love, of oneness, didn't actually go anywhere. I've just realised I'm acting like a child, right? I'm jumping along rocks as I'm talking to you, right? I'm trying to keep my balance. Isn't that all we ever do in life, is trying to keep our balance? Completely forgot I was talking to you there, see? ADHD. LOL. And there, remember yesterday I told you about the part of the loch? That's it there, look at that. It's awful. And that on the summer, or when it's warm, smells exactly like cocaine. My head disappears. So, right. We're on a word. Most of us that are watching this are looking to develop themselves. They're looking to get feeling better. They're wanting to feel more connection in their life. Now, what took us from that metaphorical garden, the Garden of Eden, was guilt. Right? We disobeyed God. Right? I'm going to go off on a tangent. What did God say that you couldn't do to the tree, the tree of knowledge in the garden? You're not allowed to eat it. Don't touch it, right? Most of you are going to agree with this in this lockdown time. Spoke about this for a long time as well. I'd really like people to start getting into a programme and start looking at this kind of stuff so that we can live more fuller lives. Don't touch the wet paint. What do? We touch the wet paint, okay? We, as human beings, linguistically, do not have the capacity to understand the words don't. We can't hear it. Get that? Fact. Now, you say to a child, don't touch the kettle. What does it do? Touches the kettle. What does the child hear? Lift out the word don't. Touch the kettle. Right? Don't touch the wet paint. Touch the wet paint. That's what we hear. That's what we see. Nicola Sturgeon. Don't go outside, guys. What did everybody do? You've seen it all over social media. I can't emphasise enough here that we need to start to get this, right? Don't go outside. What does everybody do? This place was absolutely jumping. The minute Nicola Sturgeon said don't go outside, this place was packed. Folk were having barbecues and everything and picnics at Lanarkloch, right? Fact. Don't eat the fruit for the forbidden tree. What did they do? They ate the fruit from the forbidden tree, right? When I started to learn this stuff, it was 2010. I started training in a thing called neurofeedback, and I was exploring the brain and how it worked. With a guy called Martin Whitke in the US, and I went, oh no. The very first drugs job I got was with a guy called Alec Meikle at Scottish Drugs Forum. I swear I met my sponsor right enough, but that's good, that's a real positive thing. And the name of the project it was 1993. It was with Recreate. You can look it up. It was called the Don't Take Drugs campaign, right? Millions by the Scottish Drugs Forum was poured into Don't Take Drugs. I worked on it. What did we tell a nation of people to do? Take drugs. Okay, right. Since 1993 or 94, when I was 93, 93, 94, it was the first tee in the park. I remember I was on the TV there. I felt quite, that was me. I thought, that's it, I'm made. And we were part of the criminal justice bill, the work that I was doing as a wee guy, and that was tee in the park could only go ahead if we could, and we looked at safer dancing, and we did like loads of stuff. If you Google it, you'll see it. Worked with Lifelink Manchester, and we did Acid Head Arnie and all these kind of cartoons. It was fun. But anyway, I'm going way off on a tangent again. But don't eat the fruit for the forbidden tree. What did we do? We went and ate the fruit for the forbidden tree. Now, look at Portugal. Just back from Portugal last week, where I was doing some work a couple of weeks ago. And Portugal's lifted the stigma. It's lifted the don't take drugs any longer. They don't say that. You want to take drugs, take drugs. What we're going to do is we're going to offer support for those that do. They say since Portugal did that in 2004, what's it done to their drug-related deaths compared to Scotland, compared to the rest of the world? Have they went up? No, they haven't went up. They've went down. They have went down. So if we can scientifically agree with that, and you can agree with the fact that when you say don't touch the wet paint, we all go and touch the wet paint, don't we? We're all agreeing with that. We're all agreeing that when Nicola Sturgeon turned down and put the country into lockdown and said don't go out, what did people start doing? They started going out, right? So I think we're going to have to start to look at a better approach, which goes back into it being societal. Now, if you're in agreement with that and you're willing to walk that path because you want to change, I started talking about the different types of alcohol that gave you a different type of feeling. Different types of feeling give you different effects. Now, I believe we're all trapped in guilt. Every one of us are trapped in guilt. We're trapped in pride. We all know-it-alls. We all know what's best. And that way of thinking makes us feel a certain way. But we became so used to it, like a fish in water, we can't get out of the trap that we're in. And what we do is we keep what's called the repetition compulsion disorder. We keep repeating the pattern of behaviour, whether it's positive or negative, because it is part of the pattern recognition device that our brain is. We don't know whether it's good or bad. That doesn't matter. Now, so many people are super dissociated from guilt because it's so nasty. You know, like people that are in the, say people that are like bankers, they know what they're doing. Politicians, they know what they're doing. The lies, the deceit. Salesmen, car salesmen, they know what they're doing. They're manipulating people. They're not telling people the full truth. Now, if you know you're not telling somebody the full truth, how's that going to make you feel? It's going to make you feel guilty. But if you rely on the money that way of being is bringing into you, you would be riddled with guilt. So you have to dissociate even further from who you actually are. So really then you just become the Walking Dead, if you like. Now, how do we change this? I'm getting back round the lock again. If this is going to be a long one, it's going to be a long one. I've not finished yet, so I'll keep going. So how do you do that? Okay, now these talks in the morning have nothing at all to do with addiction. I finished the ones off that I was doing at night, but in my opinion, fastest way to deal with it, the serenity prayer. You can ditch the God if you want. Start to accept the things you cannot change. And that can take the guilt away. You bumped your car, you feel bad about it. Accept that you can't change that. Whatever it is that you've done, you broke the vase. You spoke badly to somebody. Now, I believe fully that we are addicted to guilt and shame. Our nucleus accumbens is hijacked by those feelings much more than we are to drugs and alcohol. Why? Because we were feeling it before we were even born. It's non-conscious. I don't know any babies, 3-month-old, 9-month-old, a year old, that are mainlining heroin, that are smoking crack. Don't know any ones that are doing that, right? Most people start to do that when they're like 14, 16, 18, 20. But guilt, that's been in you before you were even here. So you're hooked into that frame of being. You're encapsulated in that matrix. And if you want to get out, you want to take the red pill or the blue pill, it's completely up to you. But the way to free yourself from these feelings of guilt and shame is to accept that you cannot change them and start to hardwire your own computer. You run the show, you own this computer, you're the master of your own destiny, you can create your own reality and you are in charge. You want to stay in the passenger seat of the vehicle and have some drunken madman take you around the back roads at 100 mile an hour and you feel really unsafe, go right ahead. Good morning, sir, how are you? Are you well?
Aye, fine, thanks, yeah.
Super, I'm really well. I'm just doing a wee video thing now. You have a good day. Aye, God bless, mate. Now, you want to get torn about the countryside in a car with a drunken madman, go ahead. You want to get out the passenger seat and go into the driver's seat and start to take yourself to a destination that's more of love and gratitude and oneness and abundance. These are my suggestions. This is what I feel would be helpful. Gratitude. Start to feel gratitude. Gratitude hardwires your brain. And to ask Stephen Snedden's question last night when he answered me, and I didn't. We were talking about giving, step 12. You get oxytocin. Your body gets full of oxytocin. That's a chemical. And when you've got that in your body, you feel really good. You feel stoked. You feel amazing. Okay, now that, if that could be sold in pints at a bar, that is the elixir, that is the fountain of youth. Start to feel grateful for everything. Start to do the polar opposite, and you will completely and utterly rewire your brain for happiness, rewire your brain for success, rewire your brain to be in a place called flow. You want to get into flow, you've got to get out of the way, because things start happening that you're not in any control of. Whereas you want to be a miserable, guilt-ridden guilt that goes out and does it his way, you get to feel that you're in control. But none of us are really in control. I don't know if this could be the last podcast I do. I could drop down dead right now. I've got no control of that. I'm quite happy with that too. I've made peace with that. Death's my friend, it's no longer my enemy. Now, we're going to do these again tomorrow. I'm just going to keep doing morning ones. I hope that's been useful. I hope that you've got something from that. And Heather Muir, good morning. Francis, repetition compulsive disorder. Now, yes, just to plug that, a dear friend of mine that I have known for probably, oh goodness, it'll be more than 30 years. I'm not going to tell you where we met, but you can imagine it was 30 years ago. And Mr. Francis Devine, he was one of the people in Scotland that brought the all-nighter to Scotland. I met him with a guy called Jumpy Simpson, a few other boys. Now, Mr. Devine is an academic. He's a clever soul, and he has got some great beliefs, values, and indeed stories to share. So we're going to be going live the beginning of this week. He's up to his neck with it right now, his PhD, and we're going to go live, and I think you'll find that interesting as well. It's going to be a great night with Frank on the couch, and have a fantastic Sunday. Sending you lots of love. If this is something that you're interested in pursuing, do your own research, get in about it, start to take control of your own destiny, and live a much fuller life and be the best version of yourself that you can be. And God bless. Have a great Sunday. All the best.